So before we start this episode, I kind of wanted to talk about the description in yesterday's episode. As you see in the description, I kind of went off on this little rant about Cyberlink Pro Director, which is, of course, the video editing software that I use to put these episodes together. And I got really upset because they took out the idea that you could put an outro on these videos. And for some reason, every time I tried to put that outro that I've always been using for this particular show, it wouldn't go to the end of the video. It would only go to the front, and there was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing I could find I couldn't find a way to get it to the end of the video without having to restart the whole thing over again, and that really made me upset, and that's why I kind of went off yesterday in the description before, and I'm still very upset about it. It's completely unfair that you have to change something like that when you're just basically telling people you can't have outros anymore, except unless you're willing to restart everything that you had before from the very beginning. It's stupid. It's a stupid decision, but as you saw in the last video, I was able to kind of work around it. I made kind of like my own little end screen, and I still don't know how I'm going to be able to do the outros, my regular outro, because I really don't want to have to restart each video from the very beginning, because I'd be losing stuff that probably would not work in other videos if I started from scratch again. So yeah, so I wanted to explain that first before we jumped into the actual episode. So in case anybody was looking at the little description from yesterday's video and saw me going off at the beginning, that's why I was very upset. And I mean, unfortunately, it is what it is. I can't really do anything about it, so we're just gonna have to work around it. So anyway, with that said and out of the way, welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies. We're wrapping up March 1991. And you know what? Let's get off the sour note that we're starting off on. Let's start off with probably one of my favorite underrated comedies from this year, 1991. It was written by John Hughes. It features Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly. The movie is called Career Opportunities.
I was 15 when I invented the artificial dog heart. How you doing?
John Hughes, the creator of The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Uncle Buck.
Did I ever tell you about the time that I signed a professional ball contract?
We'd like to introduce you to Jim Dodge.
You got smart again, didn't you?
I'm not like everybody.
She's got brain damage.
He doesn't.
He spent 21 years improving on reality.
Going to Paris on F-14.
Jim is gonna find himself.
Are you a slacker?
No, Presbyterian.
I can offer you $4.44 per hour. $4.44.
What about the benefits?
There's no eating. You're not being paid to eat, so don't. Don't play any music.
I don't have any time to play any music.
Don't touch me.
Welcome to the target team.
You're locking me in?
Then, one wild night, Jim Dodge finally found the real thing. In aisle 5.
What are you doing here?
I work here. Do you know how you make me feel?
Like a natural woman?
I'm a janitor in training. You're an heiress.
You know what your problem is?
No, but let me go through my list.
What were you planning to steal? Hairspray?
Well, we haven't decided yet, have we? From John Hughes. Career Opportunities. The story of a man and a woman, aisles apart.
If I was sweating, would you touch me?
I would probably touch you even if you were covered with spiders.
And one night that changed everything.
It's not as uncomfortable as I thought it'd be. Oh, no, it's not bad.
Yeah, sadly, this movie didn't do well at the box office. It also got a lot of negative reviews back then, and John Hughes himself even pushed the film away from his filmography. He didn't even want to talk about this movie, which, compared to some of the really bad movies that he's associated himself with, especially in the latter half of the 90s, yeah, this movie is not a bad movie at all. This is a wonderful, wonderful movie. And it just works because the leading characters, Frank Whaley and Jennifer Connelly, they work off each other so well. And for most people at Whaley's age, this is the perfect fantasy film for them. You're stuck in a dead-end job in the middle of the night, and then the girl of your dreams is right there inside, and you're stuck inside there for the rest of the night. And then you go on this crazy adventure with these two crooks that come into play, one of them played by Dermot Mulroney. And chaos and hilarity ensues, and it's a wonderful movie. It's a really great film. I really enjoy this movie a lot. And Jennifer Connelly, man, I mean, she was beautiful back then. She still is now. But, man, this was her at her peak hotness, in my opinion. I mean, the horse scene, when she's on the horse in there, in the Target, it's just like, nothing else matters, man. Like, that to me is like, that's pinnacle Jennifer Connelly to me. I mean, she was very beautiful back then. And, like I said, still a great actress, that she was great in this movie. It's also very interesting to look at this movie and realize that most Targets really have not changed since 1991. I mean, most stores have changed since they've been in previous movies. Like, I know Christmas Vacation had Walmart in there and that was in 1989, and Walmart certainly looks a hell of a lot different than it does today. Target really does not look that different. I mean, there are very little things that you'll notice. Like, obviously, we've improved in technology. The food courts have gotten much more fancier. Some of them have Starbucks. Some of them have Pizza Huts. It was interesting. It was fun to see an old school department store food court there. And I live in Western Pennsylvania. We've had Hills and Ames. It always takes me back to those old food courts that we used to have back then. We had like the popcorn, and a lot of people remember that. You could buy candles that actually smelled like Hills food courts around here. I mean, it was just kind of cool to really see that. And Target didn't come to my neck of the woods until about the late 90s. So, I mean, that was really something that took me back to like the good old days of like those old department stores that I used to love going into as a kid. But yeah, the movie is really fantastic, man. It's one of John Hughes' most underrated movies. In fact, most of the movies John Hughes made in 91 were actually very good movies for the most part. One of them, not so much, but we'll get to that at the tail end of the year. Excuse me. But, yeah, Career Opportunities is a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, please go out and check it out. You can find it on Blu-ray, you can find it on streaming, you can find it on DVD. Go seek it out. It's a wonderful movie. I can't recommend it enough. It's one of the great reasons why 1991 was such a great year for comedy. And, yeah, fantastic movie. There's nothing more I need to say about it. So, that's Career Opportunity. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Robert Townsend's The Five Heartbeats.
I think you guys have what it takes to go all the way to the top.
A new film by Robert Townsend. With a lot of music. And a big heart. The Five Heartbeats.
I want you on my label. Let's make a deal, right? We're gonna go and record our first single.
And I want a gold record.
I thought it was on the radio. A new house. Oh, I got nothing but love for you guys.
They were just five guys from the neighborhood who created a sound that rocked America. The Five Heartbeats.
Robert Townsend, of course, is the same man that gave us Hollywood Shuffle, which is a very underrated comedy from the 1980s. And this was one of his first attempts to break outside of his norm, because he had been so associated with comedy. And this was also co-written by Keenan Ivory Wayans, who, at the time of this, was hitting his stride with In Living Color, making his name known. And, in terms of the movie itself, it's alright, but I feel like they were hoping for something much better. I think basically the plot of the film takes from a lot of the lives of several different artists. You see elements of the Dells. You see a lot of the Temptations here. Four Tops, Wilson Pickett, James Brown, Sam Cooke, Frankie Lyman, and it does kind of fall into the typical musical biopic feel and environment. But this is basically its own thing, and I think really one of the things that makes it somewhat enjoyable are the performances. You have Robert Townsend, you have Michael Wright, Leon from Cool Runnings, Harry G. Lennox, Tico Wells. You also have Diane Carroll in the movie as well. As far as the story goes, I feel like it could have been written a whole lot better. If they wanted to try, they should have tried to distance themselves from falling into the same musical biopic shtick and do something creative on their very own. I mean, they're taking some ideas here that really could work very well, and I think somebody like Tom Hanks actually did something very similar to this 5 years later, I should say, with That Thing You Do, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think that movie does this story, but this idea a lot better. But I get what Robert Townsend was trying to do. I got a good sense of what he was trying to go for here. It just didn't really work overall as a film. I think it's not a terrible movie, but I feel like it's one that could have been so much better if the script had been a little bit better, if the script had stood out more on its own and didn't feel like the same musical biopic stuff that we've seen over and over again. But I mean, I thought it was okay. It's nothing I'd watch again, but I'm glad I saw it the first time. So, and yeah, that's really all I got to say about the 5 Heartbeats. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, and that is the horror film The Unborn. Not that other Unborn with Odette Yustman from Cloverfield, or I guess Odette Annabelle, but a much different Unborn movie.
Technology of in vitro pregnancy has progressed so rapidly that today almost anything is possible. I'm gonna be a mother.
They wanted it more than anything.
Ireland really is the best. His success rate with infertility is close to 100%.
They thought it was impossible.
Your case is trickier than some, but I don't anticipate any difficulty.
Dr. Marlin gave me these pills. Don't take them.
Stop fighting it.
I don't trust him.
Let it happen.
He's not an ordinary doctor.
We'll take care of you.
A geneticist with a vision.
They are better, stronger, more intelligent. They don't need to cause harm.
There's this thing growing inside of me. It's not my baby.
What you need at this point is some counseling.
It's not human. No! No! Ireland changed it. It's not part of me. No choice. I have to get rid of it now before they find me.
You're obviously in the 3rd trimester. It's against the law.
They're doing something to the children. They're changing them. They don't belong to us anymore. This is not my baby. I don't know what it is, but it is not mine. They're eating us alive.
The unborn. Having a baby can be a scream.
Though, let's be completely honest here, there are a lot of elements taken from this Unborn that was put into the other Unborn, but needless to say, this movie was so much better than that one. I mean, the one from 2009 was just a mess of a film. This one, not quite as messy, but it at least tried. It did try. There are some interesting ideas and some nice practical effects in here, but it's nothing. I mean, honestly, it's nothing really all that special. But again, it's kind of like the 5 Heartbeats. I get what they were trying to do. I get they were trying to do like a killer mutant baby story, something like It's Alive, or even something on the lines of something like Rosemary's Baby and The Fly. But I mean, it is what it is. It's like I'm not a horror movie type of guy, so maybe I'm not the zeitgeist to really get into this a whole lot. But I mean, it is what it is. There are a lot of interesting names on this movie. Wally Pfister, the cinematographer for this, went on to become the cinematographer for many of the Christopher Nolan movies, including The Dark Knight and Batman Begins. John Burkanto and Michael Ferris are notable names. They are guys who I lost my train of thought for a second. These guys actually got bigger roles after writing roles after this. They wrote The Net, the Sandra Bullock movie. They wrote the Michael Douglas movie, The Game. They wrote Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. They wrote Terminator Salvation, Surrogates, Catwoman, Primeval. They both wrote for Married with Children in the same year. Aeon Flux. Michael Ferris wrote for The Simpsons. So these guys have done other works outside of this. But the biggest name on here is Robin Flender. And that name may not sound familiar to a lot of people, but he directed Leprechaun 2. But most interesting to me, at least, he also directed one of my favorite documentaries from 2011, and that's Conan O'Brien Can't Stop. So, I mean, give the guy credit. He has a good range of directing these scripted movies to these great documentary films. And that's really all I got to say about this movie, is that it has a lot of notable names in here, especially with the casting. Lisa Kudrow and Kathy Griffin have small roles in this before they became big in the 90s. So there's definitely a lot here you could take from this movie. I mean, I guess if you are into horror films and you like these culty type of movies, you'll definitely get into it. But I mean, it is what it is. It works for what it is, and it certainly is a lot better than the other Unborn movies. So yeah, that's the Unborn for you. So on that note, we leave you with another edition of Time About the Movies and the Books. Next time around, we jump into the month of April. To wrap up the week, we have one of the more notorious comedies of 1991, and that was Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger in The Marrying Man. And that's the only new release that came out on that weekend, so that'll be the only release we'll talk about on the next episode. So be on the lookout for that. Other than that, though, thank you guys for watching, and as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the all-new episode. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and until then, take care.